Hello, everybody. Tom here, host of Stories Across Canada, and today I'm with Bon. So, Bon, if you want to tell us, I know about you, but if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, that'd be great.
Sure. My name is Bon Graham Reimer. I live in Hope, BC, and we're here today in my yard from my 1943 old house that's been in our family for years. Born and raised in Hope, love this little town. I'm an artist, I'm a Stalo coordinator, and I am a Reimer's food truck assistant.
She's a woman of many, many hats. I've known Bon for quite a while, and I don't know, we just got along great when we met years ago. I've got some of her artwork in my house. I feel pretty special. Still use your bookmarks and stuff like that. But I was saying to Bon, we're all been through different things in the last year and a half, probably longer for some. But so in the last year and a half, there's just been lots of things going on. What does the last year and a half look like for you?
Well, let me think about this. Are you making reference to like with the COVID restrictions and things like that, or just in life in general?
It could be whatever it's about you, right? So it could be, restrictions, COVID, it could be some of the Aboriginal stuff, it could be anything.
Okay. Let's go back to the year and a half ago then. A year and a half ago, I saw a project come to light of the Vetter Roundabout, which is in Chilliwack, BC, about 35-40 minutes from where Hope is located. It was a project that had been on the go for 2-3 years, and I finally saw it come to light at the very start of about a year and a half ago. So it was a great project. I got to work with Chief Dave Jimmy, the city councilors, the city of Chilliwack, and who else was involved in that? My brother's friend, Challen Clark, and his wife, who were the engineers, and they were also from Hope. So it was kind of a cool connection that we ended up with these Hope people using their talents to create this beautiful roundabout. It was shortly after that where everything kind of started to shut down, and we were all told to stay home. And my job my 9-to-5 job involves working with Stala Tourism, directing cultural tours of the area with Sunny McKelsey, and we do the Halkomelem place names, Halkomelem being the indigenous language for our area, the Stalo territory or Stalo region. And so we conduct these tours that take you basically through the valley, up into the canyon, and do a loop around. And, a big section of that happens in Hope. So my job was going in, checking into an office. And then when the restrictions came in, we all worked from home. So I didn't mind that at all.
And what I will do, so it won't happen on YouTube, it'll definitely happen on Facebook and on the website, is I'll take pictures of the roundabout. So I know when we were waiting for this roundabout is before you go up to Cultus Lake in Chilliwack, well, just outside Chilliwack, and we knew that Bon was working on it. We're going, when's it going to be done? When would it be done? And it's such a beautiful, it's just such a beautiful thing. I mean, it's a roundabout, it's cars driving around, but the artistry and like there's things about it, and because we know you, but the history of it is really, really important. I know this is more than a year and a half ago, but I'm like, 'cause I know a bit of this, but do you want to tell us a bit about the whole language that you kind of were bringing back, the written?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, my art name is B Wise. That's BWYSE. And I use that as reference to my grandmother, who was Lavina Wise from the Snuneymuxw band, Nanaimo, BC.
You get gas.
Yeah. We're just gonna have to edit that.
No, that's Stan. Love it. That's Stan. We have a neighbor doing the laps, and we get parts of it.
Okay. Anyway, that's my lineage, is going back to Snuneymuxw, which is basically that's the First Nations that I belong with. But I am also connected with Stalo through the Squaw band in Chilliwack. So the lineage there is Prest Road. Are you familiar?
Yep.
So Prest Road in Chilliwack. William Prest married Mary Ben from the Squaw band. They had, I don't know, many children. I won't say a number because I don't want to be wrong. But one of the youngest was my grandfather, and Charles Prest, and that is my mom, Ellen Prest Graham. That would be her father. So this is kind of the lineage that is my connection, which is often why I describe myself as a Coast Salish artist, because I want to encompass and respect my Snuneymuxw roots as well as my Stalo roots. So Halkomelem is the language. And about, I'd say, I'd started this back in just before the Olympics. So what was that? 2008, 2009. I was inspired to, actually, it was my niece who wanted me to create a design for her. She wanted it to reflect her cultural background, reflect from where we are, and some type of word that meant something special. And in my research of this, I discovered that the Halkomelem language was almost on the brink of extinction. So I started looking through the words and kind of exploring who was helping and working on the preservation of this language. And I did a little work online. I met with some people. I talked about it with different people, and it took a bit of work to understand what was happening with it all. As an artist, I will never claim to be a language person, but I also have a newspaper background, which lends itself to fonts and familiarity with how letters and words reflect themselves on their own, independently. When I go into schools, I will say to them, I want you to think about the word wow. And when you think of the word wow, you usually think W-O-W. You can't help yourself. Your mind kind of goes that way. And same thing when you think about the word silk. Silk is a very fine word. And as an artist or as a commercial artist in newspapers, I would never do silk. I would do beautiful, lovely, fine lettering for silk. So my idea was to create a Coast Salish font using and utilizing traditional Coast Salish designs. So when you saw the letters, you would immediately think, this looks like an Indigenous word or an Indigenous letter or an Indigenous language. And then from there, create that interest to learn the words and to understand that this is part of the Halkomelem language and has this Indigenous component to it. So back in the day, and I think people still do this, I noticed people would write words like love, live, laugh, love. That was that was the standard in everyone's home back in those days. And let's say friend, home, believe, dream, these types of inspirational words, which I love those words. But my idea was to create them in Halkomelem and have them done in a Halkomelem word using my font that I had created. So it took me 2 years to create this font, going through every letter. I wanted to make sure the letters fit together nicely. I wanted them to have a certain look to them that when they were all done, it looked like art, but you could also read what it said, because the idea is to make sure in the preservation of the language is that you know how it's said, you know how it reads, and ultimately I wanted to preserve Indigenous language through art. So I created 18 letters, which were the Halkomelem. That's as many letters as the Halkomelem language, sometimes C, so 19. But about 2 years ago, well, I guess I shouldn't leap forward like that, because there was a process in the beginning of working with Elizabeth Phillips, who was at the time, one of the last remaining fluent Halkomelem speakers. And what I mean by that is she was someone who spoke from birth. She talked about going to school. She talked about, whispering the words to herself and to not forget the words. And I met with her and my cousin Eddie Gardner, who's also an amazing Halkomelem language teacher and Salmon warrior. And he introduced me to Elizabeth Siamia Tiliot, and we had many lunches together. She was so encouraging, so loving, so wise, and just a mentor and more. I have deep respect for her, and she is such a whippersnapper that she is so helpful in so many ways, not just to me, but to the broader population. She's being recorded by universities and has received awards for what she's doing in her preservation of the Halkomelem language. So she was an integral part of preserving the language and working with me. So I received the words, we would talk about different ideas, and this went on for quite some time. I ended up creating an initial run of cards and prints and different pieces of art that were then available to the, at the time of the Olympics was kind of like my time frame of knowing when this was all happening. And then it was shortly thereafter, like, in 2011 and 2012, where I kind of advanced into working with schools and working with different businesses. And so now here we are. Hard to believe it's almost, well, it's actually, what is that? Like, yeah, 12 years later, and all the things that have happened in those 10 years and leading up to, and and even in the Vedder Roundabout is inclusion of the Halkomelem language in my font. And so I've had many different opportunities come my way, and I'm super thankful. I do logos and designs, and I've expanded into all 26 letters of the English alphabet, creating an English to Halkomelem coloring book, a French to Halkomelem coloring book, a 13 Moons Halkomelem calendar, and that is from the 77 elders, Stalo elders. Do you? Yeah. And cards, prints, paintings, and I just received a grant, actually, and this will be coming out in the next year, to do the 12 Halkomelem place names as they exist in a painting. They're going to be 2 foot by 3 foot by 2 foot, and they will have a painting of the mountain and the story behind it and the Halkomelem name in my font. And I plan to do a show of that whenever it's complete, probably sometime early winter of 2022.
It's so exciting. And see, I knew some of that, but I didn't know most of it. So, but this thing about, we were talking earlier off camera about just the power of story and learning. We learn about each other, and I think we become grateful for journeys that we're on. And I know for me, in this last, I don't know, quite a few years, just like my personal journey, which I'm not going to, but this whole idea of kind of eyes wide open, kind of seeing what's going on. It's so easy to be busy, and then exhausted. Vaughn, I'm telling on her and her husband were really, really busy on the weekend with a big festival here at Hope, and her husband has a food truck. And so she's just catching up. So I'm glad she gave me some time. But we have seasons of busy, but there's times like right now, it's beautiful out here and we've got the breeze and like it's
wind, it never ends.
Yeah, and it's just such a great thing. And so I'm gonna ask you one more question. In the last, like, she's a pretty positive person, which I love. What would you say to somebody, if it's art, it could be more than just art, but about the process of, like you said, 12 years ago, starting this journey, and then it's not over by any means, but now you're in the midst of this journey of keeping people aware of language. So how would you encourage, I'm thinking of artists, but it could be anybody.
Like encouraging artists on a journey?
Just not to give up.
Well, when I first started all this, I actually developed this word and this design for my niece, to go back to the start of my story. And I created them. I created the letters so that they kind of swooped inside each other, and they ended up making this almost a tribal shape, but not. It was different than that. And as I was driving home that day, it was one of those dreary November days. But honestly, the light shone down on this piece of work, and I had something go through me that told me to stay on this path beyond myself. I knew, and even then, and I'd only done 3 letters at that point, and even then I knew and there were times I would get discouraged along the way. I would go out to events and things, and people would come and nobody's even really seemed interested in what I was doing. And I felt just, maybe everything has a season, and sometimes that's when, like, even my daughter, she's a musician. There's times where she just can't make music. There's times when you just can't make art, and you feel those stumbling blocks. And my encouraging words would be to allow those stumbling blocks and not force yourself into a position where you're now making things that with not your right spirit, and you're not in a good way. And you understand that there are other things that you can do. You can research other people's things. You could read books. You can maybe do something that's a little bit more technical, or maybe it's doing some paperwork on something. Maybe it's getting your business up and going. Maybe it's something more analytical than it is artistic. And so don't waste those opportunities worrying about the times when you're not, because honestly, I haven't picked up a paintbrush since my parents passed away in 2015. And I've got this grant now, and now's the time. So it's been 5 years since I actually did, or 6 years that I've done something hands-on, actually painting. And I've tried to do some paintings, I just couldn't do them. But what I did, I redirected my energies. That's when I created the Helka Malem digital, but it's all hand done, but it's on a computer. Right. It was it's artistic, but a different form of it. It's I designed each letter. I learned how to do most Coast Salish type styles of different animals. I focused on other things that gave me another direction, still artistic. I did some paperwork on things. I wanted to create my website to be better. There was things that I wanted to do. That's how I focus my energy, rather than feeling frustrated at the stumbling blocks that you face.
That's so good. So you're gonna go back and do some painting in the next while?
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
I'm excited, actually. Yeah, I feel like it's been a long time. I've got my canvases ordered, got my paints ordered, my brushes ordered, and I'm hoping to get started. I'm thinking like in the fall, October sometime, and hopefully, work on them. I'm one of these people that once I get doing something, I put my head down and I try and get it done. So, but we'll see how it unfolds.
I love that. It's, I hear so many people go, I'm not artistic and stuff. And there's something about inspiration. I think we all can be inspired. It could be 1,000 things. It could be really weird things and real, it doesn't have to be like art. It could be very peculiar things. But I do think it's kind of it's in our human DNA in my mind. I like to I do photography, and my wife does it different. She's into nature and all that, and I am too. But what I love about inspiration, it could be all different. It's like Bon and I could be we're looking at the house. You can't see it, and I love the cat. There's a little cat painting up there. I don't know who did it. I'm not showing you guys. But I love this uniqueness. I love the irregular. I love everything's not just a cement cinder 2x2 block, right? And life's like that. I know in the times we're in now, there's lots of stressors and lots of things. It's easy to be real negative, but I think I love what Bon said about, I didn't worry about that for now. I just, found something else that can keep me occupied. And so, yeah, any final thoughts you want to leave us with? We are going to put up her website. I am going to, on Facebook, I am going to get her permission and put up a couple of the pictures of the language, because I think it's so beautiful, but if she lets me. Anything?
My final thoughts would be as to how thankful I am, because at the end of the day, there's so many people, so many opportunities, so many places that I've been and people that I've met that I'm always grateful for, no matter in what little way or big way that they've impacted my life. And including my parents and my family and my friends are also encouraging. And I guess that would be my final words on, just being thankful for the many things that I'm blessed with.
People along the journey.
Yeah.
What about this Chris guy? What's he? This will be segment 2 when we interview her husband, who's the chef and food truck guy. But
well, me and Chris met, and we were just instantly, we were just 2 peas in a pod.
And how long have you been married now?
We've only been married a year, and we've been together almost 6 years.
Yeah.
He's a chef, 30-year chef. and has had dreams of a food truck and having his own business. And we've just put our heads down, and in the last 6 months, the idea kind of was inspired. Different doors opened, opportunities came, and now here we are with the Hope locally owned and operated food truck delivering gourmet food to our little town.
I'm so wanting to try his food. I have to bring my wife up. That was the promise I told my wife. But we'll share some of the links for some of this stuff. And thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to us. We hope the whole mindset of Stories Across Canada is that we learn to listen to each other and hear each other's stories, and we become inspired, encouraged, and we need more of that. So thank you again, Bon.
No worries.
Appreciate
Thanks, Tom.
your yard here, and
Yeah.
we'll see everybody later.
All right. Thank you.